Life is complex, and understanding the weaknesses that men navigate isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. It's about fostering understanding and connection. To know someone fully is to see both their strengths and their vulnerabilities. And in the case of men, there are certain challenges that often remain unspoken, yet shape their behavior and their relationships. From an early age, men are often subtly and sometimes overtly taught to suppress their emotions. Society, through its traditions and expectations, has long sent the message that strength and emotional restraint are intertwined. Phrases like "man up," "don't cry," or "be tough" are not just casual remarks. They carry a deeper implication that vulnerability is synonymous with weakness. Over time, these lessons take root, shaping how men interact with their inner world and those around them. When emotions are suppressed, they don't simply disappear. Instead, they simmer beneath the surface, often manifesting in ways that are harder to recognize. Anger, for instance, becomes a socially acceptable outlet for frustration or sadness. Silence, withdrawal, or even a rigid focus on tasks can become substitutes for expressing pain, disappointment, or fear. These are not acts of apathy or indifference, but reflections of a learned pattern, a survival mechanism that prioritizes stoicism over emotional openness. The cost of this suppression is profound. For many men, it creates a sense of isolation. Even in the presence of those who love them, they may feel trapped in a cycle of unspoken struggles, unable to articulate their inner experiences because they've never been taught how, or feel ashamed to try. Relationships can suffer as a result. Partners may interpret this silence as emotional unavailability or detachment, when in reality it's a deeply ingrained hesitation to appear vulnerable. On a personal level, repressing emotions can take a toll on mental and physical health. Anxiety, depression, and stress illnesses often stem from an inability to process and express feelings in a healthy way. The body and mind are deeply connected, and the emotional burden carried within often finds its outlet through physical ailments or chronic tension. But this pattern, while deeply ingrained, is not immutable. Men can learn to embrace their emotions as a source of strength rather than weakness. It starts with acknowledging that feelings are not the enemy, they are essential aspects of being human. Vulnerability, contrary to societal belief, does not diminish masculinity, it enhances it. It allows men to connect more deeply with others, to communicate authentically, and to foster relationships that are built on trust and understanding. Creating an environment where men feel safe to express their emotions is crucial. This involves challenging the stereotypes and stigmas that have perpetuated emotional suppression for generations. It means encouraging open dialogue, offering support without judgment, and celebrating emotional honesty as a courageous act. For partners, friends, and family, patience is key. The unlearning of years of conditioning takes time, but the rewards, stronger connections, improved well-being, and a fuller experience of life, are worth the effort. And so instilling in people this highest version of you, and that's where I believe we learn. Emotional repression is not a permanent state. It is a learned behavior that can be unlearned. It requires courage to confront, effort to change, and support from those who care. When men are given the tools and the encouragement to embrace their emotional selves, they unlock a deeper, more authentic way of living. One that allows them to thrive, not just survive. In this journey toward emotional freedom, there is the potential for immense growth, not only for the individual, but for everyone whose lives they touch. The fear of failure is a shadow that looms large in the lives of many men. It's not merely about the possibility of falling short. It's about what that failure seems to represent. For many, it feels like a verdict on their worth, their competence, and even their identity. Society has long equated masculinity with achievement, strength, and the ability to succeed under pressure. When failure threatens that image, it can strike at the very core of a man's sense of self. This fear often begins in childhood, where boys are encouraged to excel, to win, and to avoid showing weakness. Losing a game, struggling in school, or admitting uncertainty can feel like a personal failing rather than a natural part of growth. Over time, this creates an intense pressure to perform perfectly, to always have the right answers, and to never falter. But perfection is an impossible standard, and the fear of not meeting it can paralyze action altogether. For many men, this fear manifests in avoidance. Rather than risk failing, they may steer clear of challenges altogether. Opportunities for growth, whether personal, professional, or relational, are left unexplored because the potential cost of failure seems too great. This avoidance is not laziness or a lack of ambition. It's self-protection. By staying within the confines of the familiar, men can shield themselves from the vulnerability that failure demands. In other cases, the fear of failure drives overcompensation. Men may push themselves relentlessly, overworking and overcommitting in an attempt to prove their worth. And while this can lead to impressive achievements, it often comes at a significant cost. Burnout, strained relationships, and a pervasive sense of dissatisfaction. Success achieved in the shadow of fear can feel hollow because it's not rooted in genuine passion or purpose, but in the desperate need to avoid inadequacy. Overcoming the fear of failure requires a fundamental shift in perspective. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is an integral part of it. Every great achievement is built on a foundation of trial and error, mistakes, and lessons learned. The willingness to fail is a mark of courage, not weakness. It shows a commitment to growth and a belief that one's value is not defined by any single outcome. For men, embracing this mindset means confronting long-held beliefs about what it means to be strong and capable. Strength is not found in never failing. It is found in the resilience to rise again. It is the ability to face challenges head-on, to learn from setbacks, and to continue moving forward despite uncertainty. This is not an easy process. It requires vulnerability, self-awareness, and the willingness to let go of the fear of judgment. Support from others plays a crucial role in this journey. When men are surrounded by people who encourage risk-taking, celebrate effort rather than just results, and view failure as a stepping stone rather than a destination, they are more likely to push beyond their comfort zones. This support creates a safe space for growth where fear no longer dictates choices. Ultimately, the fear of failure is not something to be eliminated, but something to be understood and reframed. It is a natural response to the uncertainties of life, but it does not have to control one's actions. When men learn to see failure as an opportunity rather than a threat, they free themselves from its grip. They step into a world of possibility where growth, learning, and fulfillment become attainable, not in spite of failure, but because of it. Intimacy is one of the most profound aspects of human connection, yet it is often a source of struggle for men. This difficulty doesn't stem from a lack of desire for closeness, but from deeply ingrained societal and personal barriers that make vulnerability feel risky or uncomfortable. For many men, the journey to intimacy is fraught with challenges tied to how they perceive themselves and how they believe they should act in relationships. From an early age, men are often taught to equate strength with independence and self-reliance. They are encouraged to suppress emotions and solve problems on their own, creating a perception that needing or seeking deep emotional connection might be a sign of weakness. This conditioning can lead to a reluctance to open up, even with those they care about most. And it can even become a program. that encourages a person to bring things up to the surface so that they don't face their troubles or they can work through them. It's not that men don't want to share their inner worlds, it's that doing so can feel unfamiliar or even threatening to their sense of identity. This hesitation can create a disconnect in relationships. Partners may interpret silence or emotional distance as indifference, when in reality it is often fear. Fear of being misunderstood, judged, or rejected. Men might struggle to articulate their feelings or needs, not because they don't have them, but because they have never been taught how to navigate the language of intimacy. The words may seem elusive, and the vulnerability required to share them can feel overwhelming. Another challenge is the societal pressure to be the rock in relationships. Men are often expected to be providers, protectors, and sources of stability. While these rules can be meaningful, they can also make it difficult for men to acknowledge their own emotional needs. They may feel compelled to prioritize their partner's well-being over their own, believing that showing vulnerability might burden or disappoint their loved ones. Over time, this can lead to feelings of isolation within the very relationships that are meant to provide connection and support. Intimacy also requires a willingness to confront and work through conflict. For men who have been taught to avoid emotional confrontation, this can be particularly challenging. They might withdraw, shut down, or attempt to fix problems pragmatically rather than engaging in the deeper emotional dialogue that true intimacy often demands. This avoidance isn't a lack of care, it's a defense mechanism born from discomfort with emotional vulnerability. Overcoming these struggles requires both individual effort and relational understanding. Men need to recognize that intimacy is not a threat to their strength, but an extension of it. It takes courage to open up, to admit fears, and to share vulnerabilities. It's a journey of unlearning harmful stereotypes and embracing the full spectrum of human emotion. Building emotional literacy is key, learning to name, understand, and communicate feelings in a way that fosters connection rather than avoidance. And this is, again, where partners' patience and empathy are crucial. Understanding the challenges men face in navigating intimacy can help create a safe and supportive space for growth. Encouragement rather than pressure can go a long way. Intimacy thrives in environments where both partners feel valued, understood, and free to express themselves without fear of judgment. In the end, intimacy is not about perfection. It's about authenticity. It's about showing up, even when it's uncomfortable, and being willing to engage in the messy, beautiful process of truly knowing and being known. When men embrace this journey, they unlock the potential for deeper, more fulfilling relationships, not just with others, but with themselves. That's what the resolution. They discover that intimacy is not a weakness to be feared, but a strength to be cultivated, one that enriches every aspect of life. The drive to achieve is often seen as a hallmark of success, and for many men, it becomes a defining aspect of their identity. From a young age, they are conditioned to believe that their value is tied to their accomplishments, whether it's excelling in school, climbing the career ladder, or reaching specific milestones. While ambition and hard work are undeniably positive traits, an overemphasis on achievement can lead to significant personal struggles and an imbalanced life. Achievement, when pursued at all costs, can become an obsession rather than a source of fulfillment. Men may measure their self-worth solely by what they can produce or accomplish, creating a constant pressure to perform and excel. This relentless pursuit can overshadow other vital aspects of life, such as relationships, personal growth, and even health. Success in one area might come at the expense of neglect in others, leaving men feeling empty despite their outward accomplishments. This overemphasis often stems from societal narratives that equate masculinity with productivity and external success. Men are frequently praised for their ability to provide, lead, or succeed, reinforcing the idea that their primary role is to achieve rather than simply be. This can create a deep-seated fear of failure, where falling short feels not just like a temporary setback, but a fundamental flaw in their character. The pressure to meet these expectations can be overwhelming, leading to stress, burnout, and even mental health struggles. What makes this cycle particularly challenging is that external validation often reinforces it. Promotions, awards, or recognition can become addictive, offering temporary relief from self-doubt, but never truly addressing the underlying insecurity. The applause fades, and the need for the next achievement grows, perpetuating a cycle that prioritizes doing over being. This can make it difficult for men to pause, reflect, or appreciate their accomplishments without immediately setting their sights on the next goal. This can lead to finding no meaning in our lives, yet finding the meaning by striving and pushing ourselves further and further every single day to never leave this life without meaning or purpose. Never leave this life. At its core, this overemphasis on achievement can rob men of the joy and meaning they seek. True fulfillment doesn't come from checking boxes or climbing ladders. It comes from living a life aligned with one's values, passions, and purpose. When men tie their entire identity to their achievements, they risk losing sight of who they are beyond their roles and titles. They may also miss out on the deeper connections and experiences that make life rich and meaningful. Breaking free from this mindset requires a shift in perspective. Achievement should not be abandoned but redefined. It's not about constant hustle or perfection. It's about striving for goals that resonate with one's authentic self. Men must learn to view success not as a destination but as a process, one that includes failures, detours, and moments of rest. They must also recognize that their worth is inherent, not conditional upon their accomplishments. Support from others plays a critical role in this transformation. Partners, friends, and family can help by affirming men's value beyond their achievements and encouraging them to nurture other aspects of their lives. This might involve cultivating hobbies, investing in relationships, or simply taking time to relax and recharge. When men feel seen and appreciated for who they are rather than just what they do, they are more likely to embrace a healthier, more balanced approach to achievement. Ultimately, the goal is not to eliminate ambition, but to channel it in a way that supports a fulfilling and well-rounded life. Achievement is meaningful when it reflects personal growth, contributes to the well-being of others, and aligns with a deeper sense of purpose. By shifting the focus from external validation to internal fulfillment, men can reclaim their sense of self and discover that they are far more than the sum of their accomplishments. The resistance to change is a deeply rooted human tendency, but for many men it becomes an especially pronounced challenge. This resistance often stems from a desire for stability and control, a belief that what is familiar is safer and more predictable. Change, by its nature, threatens that comfort. It forces individuals to confront the unknown, let go of old patterns, and adapt to new realities. For men who have been conditioned to equate strength with consistency and reliability, this process can feel unsettling and even threatening. Change disrupts the routines and structures that provide a sense of identity and purpose. For some, life becomes a carefully curated set of expectations and roles: provider, protector, leader. When circumstances demand a shift, whether it's a career transition, a shift in personal values, or adapting to new relationships, it can feel as though the foundation of their identity is being shaken. The fear of losing what is familiar often overshadows the potential growth and opportunities that change can bring. This resistance is frequently compounded by societal narratives that celebrate unwavering determination and consistency. Men are often praised for being steadfast and unyielding, qualities that are mistakenly viewed as incompatible with adaptability. As a result, change can feel like a betrayal of these ideals, a sign of weakness or indecision rather than strength and growth. This mindset makes it harder to embrace the fluidity of life and the inevitable transformations that come with it. Moreover, resistance to change is often tied to fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of uncertainty. Change requires taking risks and stepping into unfamiliar territory where outcomes are not guaranteed. For men who feel a deep responsibility to succeed or maintain control, this uncertainty can be paralyzing. They may cling to the status quo even when it no longer serves them, simply because it feels safer than facing the unknown. The cost of resisting change, however, is significant. Life is inherently dynamic, and refusing to adapt can lead to stagnation, dissatisfaction, and missed opportunities. Clinging to outdated patterns or resisting growth stifles creativity, innovation, and personal development. Relationships may suffer when one partner is unwilling to evolve, and professional opportunities may be lost when fear outweighs ambition. Breaking free from this resistance requires a shift in perspective. Change is not the enemy. It is a natural and necessary part of growth. It is through change that individuals discover their capacity for resilience, creativity, and strength. Instead of viewing it as a threat, men must learn to see change as an opportunity to refine their skills, deepen their understanding of themselves, and expand their horizons. This transformation begins with self-awareness, acknowledging the fears and doubts that fuel resistance and understanding where they come from. It requires a willingness to question old beliefs and habits, to recognize that clinging to the past does not protect but limits. Embracing change means being open to uncertainty, trusting in one's ability to adapt, and recognizing that failure is not an end point, but a stepping stone toward growth. Support from others is invaluable during periods of transition. Friends, family, and mentors can provide encouragement, perspective, and reassurance. When men feel supported and understood, they are more likely to take the risks necessary to grow. Celebrating small victories along the way also helps to build confidence and reinforces the idea that change is not only manageable, but rewarding. Ultimately, resistance to change is a barrier that can be overcome. It is not a fixed trait, but a mindset, one that can be reshaped with courage, effort, and reflection. When men embrace change as a fundamental part of life, they unlock their potential to grow, adapt, and thrive in ways they never imagined. In doing so, they not only transform themselves, but also inspire those around them to approach life with greater openness and possibility. Finally, there's a resistance to change that can sometimes hold men back. Whether it's clinging to outdated gender roles or refusing to adapt to new dynamics in relationships, this rigidity often stems from fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, or fear of appearing inadequate. Adapting to change requires humility and an open mind, both of which can feel threatening to a person who has been conditioned to believe that strength lies in unwavering certainty. Encouraging adaptability doesn't mean forcing change, but fostering a sense of curiosity and a willingness to grow. Understanding these weaknesses isn't about exploiting them or labeling men as flawed. It's about recognizing the human struggles that exist beneath the surface and using that understanding to build stronger, more compassionate relationships. Men, like all of us, are a mix of strengths and vulnerabilities. By acknowledging these challenges, women can help create a world where men feel free to be their whole selves, where they can express, adapt, connect, and grow without fear of judgment or rejection. True partnership begins when we see each other fully, not as ideals, but as people striving, struggling, and growing together. And in that recognition, there is immense power to heal, to strengthen, and to create relationships that elevate both partners toward their highest potential.